was it? Was it 2016? 2016 to Okay, we'll get started in 1 minute.
Did they call in and say they weren't going to be here?
Yeah,
I think Jackson.
Mr. Jackson
Yeah.
is excused. Yeah.
But then we have a bunch more.
Yeah, it was bad. I
And
mean,
Campbell.
Come up Santa Barbara?
well, no, I was coming from CCU, and I left at like 4:15. So I thought like, oh, an hour is good, and I barely
I
made it.
spent 45 minutes on Santa Barbara.
Nope.
And they're all on main roads, so joy. And it's season. And schools were out about that time, so just chaos.
We'll call the regular meeting of the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board to order. Today is Tuesday, January 18th, at the City of Cape Coral Council Chamber offices. And let's begin with a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, now we'll go with our roll call.
Manaya,
Here.
Rodriguez Mien,
Here.
Campbell, Jackson, absent excused, Mitchell, Rosso Tate,
Here.
Says, Parent Representatives, Hoagland, Frank, absent, excused.
Okay, great. And we may have a couple more that come in as we begin the meeting. If we could get a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in,
I need to.
for the agenda.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep, no worries.
Minutes, sorry.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And now for the approval of our agenda for today's meeting.
Motion, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Motion to move item 13 to 9B. The staff comment up to right before the superintendent.
Motion to approve the agenda with the change.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And now we have our time allocation for public comment. So if anybody would like to make a public comment, you get 3 minutes per individual.
and we have about 45 minutes total that we can allocate to public comment. Anyone care to make a public comment? Okay, seeing no public comments, we can move on. And there's no consent agenda today, so we're ready for the superintendent's report. Thank you, Mrs. Collins.
Good evening, Board. Jackie Collins, Superintendent. I would like to begin the Superintendent Report with some special guests. And I'd like to introduce Eric Feichthaler and Tyler Feichthaler over the holiday break. They came up with the Oasis High School fight song that they'd like to share with you. They shared it with us upon return after the holiday, and it was really terrific. And I'd like them to come up and talk a little bit about how they developed it and what they did, because each one did a little bit of a different part. And then we have our high school chorus that will help us sing the fight song. So Tyler, Eric?
So hello, I'm Eric Feichthaler.
And I'm Tyler Feichthaler.
So recently we went to a professional football game, and the fight song there, every time the home team scored a touchdown, the entire stadium would sing along, and everybody was so enthusiastic and pumped, and I thought, if that happened at Oasis High School sporting events, that would be amazing.
So at the start of winter break, we decided to start composing the song. I made the notes, and Eric here made the lyrics, and we did that as we went along bit by bit in the song until we were done.
And now we have the finished product, and we can begin by sharing the instrumentals. Those are the instrumentals, all composed by Tyler Feichthaler.
All right, and now we will have the chorus sing the song, along with the instrumental vocals and the instrumentals.
Attack.
That was great, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. So what's the first game that we're going to be singing this at?
Is this where I mention a football stadium? I'm just saying.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I'm proud of you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to play the song over and over again with the lyrics at first so that our students can learn the lyrics, so that eventually by the time we get to a basketball game in our gymnasium, we won't have to play the lyrics because the audience will be singing for us. So I think it's a very, very hyped up song. I think the students will like it, and we'll start sharing it very quickly. So thank you, boys. You did a wonderful job. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next section of the superintendent report will be the staff comment by Dr. Christy Britton.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Christina Britton, proud principal of Oasis High School. I think you can easily see why. It's easy to be so proud of our kids. I just want to share a few celebratory moments and some expressions of our student talents. We have a lot of extracurriculars, obviously, and a large number of electives. With our increasing size, of course, I'm hoping to add to some of those next year. You're all familiar with Miss Dahl, our amazing art teacher. These are actually projects by her students. Those are all tiny ink dots. It's pointillism. That is a single painting made by she's a 9th grader. Wow. For drama and vocals and drama and all the things that you just heard, choir participation has doubled and the theater program has quadrupled. Miss Guffey has a way of pulling out even the most quiet kids to assist or participate in anything that happens with our theater program or our Florida Vocal Competition. Our OMS chorus went to the Florida Vocal Association and had 10 solo participants with 5 superior ratings, and our OHS chorus had 16 participants with 4 soloists and a duet that will be representing state competition in April. In theater, we take more and more students each year. We had 38 attend. 22 of those students received superior ratings and will be representing us at the state competition in March. And then in ACE Music, which we've offered now for 2 years, we have a 100% pass rate. So we definitely have some musically gifted kids, as you just heard. For sports, I want to thank the support of the community for this one. We've had athletes of the month and of the week during most of the fall. All of those are voted on by the public. It's not just the newspaper picking them. The newspaper picks them based on the submissions that our coaches send in terms of athlete contribution to their contests. Natalie McKenna was Athlete of the Month. And remember, this is against all of the Cape Coral high schools, boys and girls combined. Jacqueline Mars, Athlete of the Month in December. Kat Hagler, Athlete of the Week in November. She was our state champion bowler. And then not pictured is Lexi Linnaeus, Athlete of the Month in November. She was also on bowling. CTE in STEM it's just a lot. We have a new computer lab that's up there in the corner. IT put that in over Christmas and just did an outstanding job. I had no idea how much space those new computers would save. It's definitely a much nicer room. Our digital design lab is in transit. That is being paid for by the allocation from the state. Dr. Omenson has ordered all of that. That will look wonderful with some very large monitors, especially for our graphics design lab. Robotics and gaming lab, we are in the process of securing quotes. That will be paid for out of ESSER 2. That way we have all new computer equipment within, when it gets here, but within hopefully the next year. We're looking forward to that. Our culinary fours, there's two pictures down there. They've prepared all of our faculty meals this year. They did the faculty gift, which was like a charcuterie box, and then they did the majority of the football team meals for away games and home games. They're just kicking it. And then digital design, TV, and yearbook. Some of those designs you see there are just, I don't know, they're kid talent. They had to combine multiple animals with themselves, and then we have the TV crew at the bottom. We produce the reef every single week. Don't worry, I'm not going to read this whole thing. The Cyber Patriots, our Cyber Patriot team is currently ranked 1st in the county, 2nd in the state, and 35th in the nation out of 746 teams. Our last competition is this Friday, and we could be headed to nationals for the first time ever via virtual event. These kids are basically, we have a lot of them because they're all really good. These are your king and queen hackers. You give them a program, and they're going to figure out how to do it. The esports team, I'm sure you've heard about. We have 30 active members playing 7 sports across 3 platforms. During our open houses and our ACE night, we had a lot of interest in this. A lot of people wanted to go by and meet that teacher. The boys that you see at the bottom won first place, and I gotta be honest, when they signed up for that competition, it was kind of on a whim, and they were like, let's just go do this. And they got first place in all of the South. They just kept winning, and it was out of like 50 plus teams, so it wasn't just out of like 4. They compete in monthly tournaments. They've received gift cards, headsets, and numerous other prizes. The community has been very generous in donating to them in terms of entrance fees and participation in tournaments. So, and multiple members are receiving college scholarships and offers to play across the U.S. So in the future, this is my wrap up. I just wanted to remind and ask and cordially invite you to our senior awards at the OHS Gymnasium. The Yacht Club is under construction. May 4th, 2022 at 6, and then graduation is a couple weeks later, May 20th at FGCU Alico Arena. And next year's enrollment projection is 800. Honestly, it's 800 plus. That's on the conservative side of things. That's a 19% increase in the last 4 years. Wow. So we've been working on it. We have our current freshman class is 260, which doesn't sound huge, but when I started, we were in the 150s to 160s. So we've worked on that a lot. Does anyone have any questions?
So would you say that the increase is predominantly because of the freshman class, or how would you?
So we've done a lot of work communicating with the middle school and communicating with the 8th graders because, and I've experienced this before in other districts where I've worked, a lot of the high school feels, I don't want to say entitled, but they feel like it's an automatic, you're going to roll up. And that number was vastly shrinking. There was a lot of change in leadership until Ms. Collins came along, so that has definitely steadied. Mr. Hopper does a great job of recruitment. We go over there, and the kids present to the kids. They come to us. We tour. We have our open house with our parents. We have our ACE night separately. So there's multiple opportunities for them to see all of the things that we have to offer. The applications for the ACE program increase every single year. When I started, we were averaging in the 80s, and now we're up to about 120. We accept the bulk of those. And then we also have kids coming from other schools. I have waiting lists for 9th and 10th grade right now, and a lot of those kids were at Oasis Middle and decided to go to other high schools, and now they would like to return.
Great, great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Sure, one thing. Would you please send that slide presentation to me so I can send it to council?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. My report this evening is basically going to contain the recent internal audit that we had with the city's auditor. We've been working on this very closely, the city's finance department, Director Mark Mason and I, and we feel very confident that the updates that we've made and some of the changes that we've made are definitely going to be sufficient, and we are looking forward to moving forward. So there were just a few, I'm going to give a high-level review. You have the standard operating guide for internal funds in front of you, and all the changes that Mark and I made, we highlighted in red, so they should very clearly stand out for you. So if you would like to stop me while I'm presenting and ask me questions about anything in particular, you certainly can. Mark is also in the audience, and he can help comment as needed as well. So let's see, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there were 6, there were, 7 general areas. Some are points that we've had before. The first is that we need to use a pre-numbered receipts for cash of any amount when practical. So we were only giving receipts to cash collections of $50 or more. The auditor said absolutely not. It needs to be for any cash collection, which is fine. Most of our collections this year have been through My School Bucks, which is an electronic cash handling component, and it's worked wonders for us. So for things like concessions, entrance fees for sporting events, the school store, for drama productions, we don't have to use the 3-part receipts. We can use other approved methods as per the Red Book, such as pre-numbered tickets, tallying sheets, monies collected forms, etc. So we've got that in place. Teachers, all staff have their receipt books, and they can use them as necessary. Another highlight from the city auditor's audit was that she wanted us to specify all journal entry supporting documentation. So before, our procedures did not specifically outline what should be attached to a journal entry. And a journal entries, they're generally used when recording deposits and other transactions into the financial management general ledger that are not posted through the accounts payable process. So as you can see, we added in a whole section on this. Section 8C starts on page 48 of all the supporting documentation necessary for any type of transaction that we might have. Any questions? The next comment on the audit was about approvals and workflows. The auditor wanted us to review the workflow approval process, thinking that it would limit calculation inconsistencies. There were some inconsistencies that were posted to journal entries, but the management team, which would be Mark's team and our team, we decided that we have a good workflow. We have proper approvals in place from a variety of folks on the inside, which is in the city's finance department, and we did not feel that we needed to add any further approvals to delay those processes. So we kept that as is. The next has to do with timely deposit of funds within 5 business days. According to the Red Book, no funds should be held longer than 5 business days. There are always exceptions to this, and if there are, all we have to do is document those exceptions. And I'll give you one that just happened over the last day before our holiday break. We had Brinks, that's our armored service that comes to pick up our deposits, came at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, lunch isn't served until 10, 11, 12, so those lunch funds did not get deposited in that Friday deposit because we hadn't collected them yet. So what we have to do is just document the fact that Brinks came at 9 o'clock. They came early that day, and those funds were held until the first pickup, which was once we returned. There really is no reason that deposits cannot be made within 5 business days. In general, except when we have exceptions like that. And you have to remember, we have holidays like that that are weeks at a time, or we have long weekends, so we will always make sure that we document when and why those deposits can't be made in that time frame. The next finding was about specifically appropriate support documentation attached to refunds for either cash or check or My School Bucks purchases. This documentation, it did exist. It was found when the auditor asked us for this documentation. It just wasn't attached to the journal entry as supporting backup. So we decided that we would list on page 34, section 7A, we listed everything that needed to be part of that journal entry, that supporting documentation for any type of refund that we might issue. The process was already in place. You approved that policy, the refund policy previous. We just had to make sure that we had everything there so that when an auditor had a question, it could be easily solved and found. Next, we need to develop the efficient tracking of fundraisers and formalized financial reporting for those activities, especially organized by the PTOs and booster clubs. This was something that we worked on to quite a certain extent. There are certain forms that need to be filled out by PTOs and boosters. It's for transparency purposes, of course. They need to be accountable for all the activities that they do and that they run. And it needs to be understood by anybody who's viewing it. We need to know what the expenditures were, what the profits were. We need to keep track of inventory. We do that internally, but we are now going to make sure that our PTO organizations who fundraise on behalf of the schools follow the Charter School Authority policies and procedures. That was a biggie for our city auditor. And Mark and I both agreed that there were certain forms and reporting procedures that they needed to follow. So our training for all PTOs and boosters is going to be January 26th. It's a mandatory training. They can't perform any fundraising activities whatsoever until that training takes place. And Jana, our bookkeeper, and Marianne and I, and probably Jeanette, our senior accountant, will walk them through these steps. It's not complicated. It's just about transparency in their processes. And the forms are included in our standard operating procedure. We have a special form for internal funds when a grade level raises or does a fundraiser, like second grade, they'll want to sell their Spirit t-shirts. They have all that documentation, their forms in place, but now PTOs have separate forms that are typical to those types of fundraising activities that they do. And we will probably have to go through this process and tweak further because we haven't had them report to this extent. Some of the functions, like the fall fundraiser, that's a complicated event. We have ticket sales, we have a lot of donations, we purchase things, but we get a lot of things that are donated. We're gonna have to go through that process to make sure that we capture it properly for the auditor. We might have to go through one of those events in order to figure out what we don't have on the form that we need, but I feel very confident that those forms will capture everything that our city auditor is looking for. And like I said, additionally, we did update our processes for accounting for inventory. The boosters sell, they sell, Spirit shirts to the high school. They sell them for football. They sell them for baseball. At our elementary school, we have our parents purchase ahead of time so we know exactly how many t-shirts we are going to order because the orders have been placed. The boosters buy bulk. They buy a variety of t-shirts, a variety of sizes. There needed to be an inventory form that we have them fill out so that we know exactly what's sold, what's been donated, what's been returned, what will be rolled over to the next season. So we're going to break it down per season. And those conversations, we have the form in place. We need to put the procedures in writing once we sit down with that booster club and figure out how they work. I think per season would be best. We've also come up with we set a methodology and price guidelines for the selling of apparel. That is also part of the document, and we have decided that we would not inflate prices more than 150% for items like Booster Club t-shirt sales, so that we had a standard process. Okay, and that is a general highlighting of the findings that our city auditor presented to us. She also wanted to make sure that all employees that handled cash were bonded, and they are. And then a quote is also on one of the initial pages that shows that we have that policy in place. Does anybody have any questions about the city internal funds audit?
Any questions? Great.
Okay. All right, I have a couple more audit things to bring up. We have Clifton Larson Allen does our comprehensive annual financial report. That's our CAFR audit. It has not been, they're still in the process of working on this audit. I do not believe they will be able to meet the deadline for submission, which is January 21st, 2022. I don't believe that we are the only charter school system that's having difficulty meeting this deadline. There have been some significant contributors to why this has been such a process this year, and I can tell you about a couple of them. One is the fact that we had to, there have been Gatsby 84 changes, and those are changes in financial reporting procedures, the use of new financial codes. Eventually, we're going to convert most of our internal funds to general funds that will require new coding. And this has required us to format our financial statements completely to be in compliance, and that has taken a significant amount of time. There's more to it than that. I'm sure Marianne or Jeanette or Mark can help us understand what those Gatsby changes are, but they're large, and I believe that this is probably a problem for many of us. You also have to remember that we implemented a new Tyler Munis financial management system just for the charter schools, so that we were separate from the city, so that we did not have to go through and close and open and close and open more than one time every year. We did that over the month of September, worked out our kinks in October, and that really that was a delay for us because that was a large transition. So there are several factors that play into the late reporting that we might experience this year, but I can tell you that after talking to Chris Kessler and Mark, we are very, very close. They can't just simply wrap it up and say, okay, we're done, we're ready. It has to go through a series of approvals and processes. It's an international policy of approvals that they have to go through. That is not a quick process either. So we're done with our audit. It's those, the policies and the approvals that we're now waiting on. So I am certain that very, very shortly that we will have this turned in to the Florida Department of Education portal. Any questions? There is, one of the consequences of not meeting the deadline is that there is the potential to have capital outlay funding withheld or on hold until it's turned in. I don't foresee that being a problem because I think we'll be very close to the deadline, but I did want to bring that forward to the board. It's usually that funding tends to be about $140,000 a month that we receive. $142,000 is an average, but I don't think that that's going to be a concern of ours. So we are very close to getting this done. Okay? And last, we received on Friday a letter from the Auditor General citing Chapter 2012-134, Laws of Florida, that when a charter school has failed to correct an audit finding that has been reported in 3 successive financial audit reports, a written response is required as to how the issue has been corrected or resolved. So a letter was sent to us addressing a finding from fiscal year 1920 regarding the recommendation of the development of a reliable system to track FRS plan changes when incurred and a monitoring plan that is continuously reviewed. We don't have an electronic plan like the city. They have OnBase, and I think when employees need to go in and make changes to their benefits or their retirement package, they have to go through a program called OnBase so that the city's aware that a change is being made. Since the city doesn't participate in FRS and we do, our employees can go in and change their FRS plan through FRS. Doesn't mean they have to contact our HR department to let them know. So we're constantly playing a system of catch-up. They go in and change their plan from the standard plan to there are 2 plans, an investment plan and a standard plan. So when they go in there and make those changes, they don't necessarily tell the HR department. We find out after the fact. So we spoke to Chris Kessler. It was not a finding in our 2021 audit because we have resolved that. We just simply have to put our plan in writing and in place and send it to the Auditor General. So there have been better reports by the FRS department so that they can give us a heads up as to what changes are coming so that we can make them in a more timely manner. So as we move from one year to the next, we make these improvements. We just have to make sure that we're writing it down and we're following our follow-up protocol, which we are. So I will turn over our response to you. It will come from our chairperson, Dr. Minaya, and we will send it off to the state, but I don't foresee any problems with that moving forward in the future. Okay?
Thank you. Any questions? Just one observation. I think it's a great sign that you're not providing a report on Omicron and its impact, so that must mean that things are generally acceptable.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you were done. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. That's at the end.
Lead in.
On a good note, our Cognia Financial Accreditation Report will be released soon. I checked up on it. It's been about 60 days. It's scheduled to be reviewed at the Global Commission meeting on January 26th, and then they will send it to us shortly thereafter. So we're looking forward to seeing what the review has to share with us, because we know it was a very good one. And also, I have decided to be a review team, accreditation review team member. I'm going to review 2 systems coming up this year, one in March and one in May. The one in March it's a school. It's called the Burns Science and Technology Charter School. It's located in Florida. They are a STEAM initiative, charter high school. So I think it'd be very interesting to see what they do and how they're running their programs and compare them to what we're doing, because that's our initiative as well. And the other one is Score at the Top Learning Centers. They are learning centers, but they are all over the country. So I will be evaluating with a team the ones that are here in Florida, because they are already accredited. And I'm going to do that with our lead team member who led our accreditation, Drew Moore, he is leading that one as well. And I would like to work with him because I thought it was a very good process to go through. So I'll let you know how that goes. It's always good to know how it works on the inside, because the next time we go through accreditation, all the standards are going to change, and then we can be ahead of the game, so that we'll know exactly what we need to do looking forward. Okay, so talking about the CDC guidelines and COVID. The good news now from the Florida Department of Health is that we can follow the CDC guidelines to shorten isolation and quarantine times for our staff members. That means they can go down to a 5-day isolation period, and they can come back 24 hours fever or symptom-free, or with a negative test result. Students cannot. The Florida Department of Health wants to keep them to a 10-day quarantine period or a period of isolation. Now, parents can opt to send them even though they've been exposed, and our school nurse is saying that they are being exposed at school and they are being exposed at home. And we do see more families now quarantining if they're exposed at home. The whole family is staying home, which is good. But we are having positivity, and the spike is on the increase. Last week we had 3 days of school for students, and we had 28 positive cases. We are seeing anywhere from 1 to 5 infections per day per school. This week we've had, how many days have we had? 2 days. We've already had 20 cases. So yes, those positivity rates are increasing. We have a lot of staff that are getting sick, and we also have students. Now we're trying to be very positive, and we're trying to be very creative and thinking out of the box. We are finding that we don't want to limit things, willy-nilly like we did last time. We want to be able to have events like field trips, but we're going to do things like keep those classes in cohorts. So one class will be on the bus at one time. It'll cost us it might cost us an extra bus, but those cohorts will stay with that cohort group so that they can stay on the field trip. We are not doing any live, large groupings. All of our meetings are virtual. Grade levels cannot congregate for lunch unless they social distance. Like I said, we're all doing our team leader meetings virtually, our staff meetings virtually. We are limiting large events. Our athletic teams, we're only allowing so many people in per athletic event, and they must be socially distanced within the gymnasiums. The good news is that a lot of our middle school athletics are now outside, like soccer, so we're outside. And we are working to do our open houses because they are very important to us in our enrollment. Donnie's got an open house coming up in the next couple of days, and it's going to be a walkthrough for parents to see the building, because a lot of our parents like to come in and see what the classrooms look like and what the STEM lab looks like in the cafeteria. We won't have any staff present. They will not be there, but the students will be able to, with their families, walk through and see what the building looks like, and we're going to stagger them. You know, if your last name begins with an A, you're going to come at 4 o'clock. If your last name begins with a B, you're going to come at 4:30, so that we can keep our crowds small, and there will be a core group of administrators there that will be able to answer questions virtually for those families that come. And they're going to put a big 70-inch screen in the breezeway, and the parents can walk up and do a Zoom interface with the principal, the assistant principal, and the dean of students as well, and the guidance counselor. So I think it's a very good idea. High school did something similar recently, and they had a loop of information that they broadcast in the high school gym, and they spread it out by last name, and they kept everybody circulating and moving so that we can have these events. We just have to do it wisely. What we don't want to do is cut everything off, because what we're finding is that our students are having a very hard time with their remoteness and not being able to do the things that they need to be able to do socially. So far we've done okay. I don't think we're out of the ordinary with any other schools. I just think this COVID is going to spike. And what we're seeing is that by mid-February we should have a downtrend. We're already seeing that in Europe and other places across the globe, that the COVID, this particular strain is highly contagious, less severe, and shorter lived. So that is the conclusion of my report. Do we have any comments, any questions?
Do we know what the county's rate is?
Positivity rate last time we checked was about, I want to say 30%. 35%. High.
And for us, below 5% is what's more manageable, right?
Always.
Right. Any questions? How are our teachers feeling?
Most of them, according to Melanie, they have light symptoms. They're coming back quickly. We have had, some of our principals and administrators teach classes. We've had some classes combined in the cafeteria because we have staff that are out sick. But we're holding okay. We're not at the point where we're worried about closing our schools, closing down classrooms. We haven't gotten there yet, and we're knocking on wood. But I think we're trying to be as careful as possible. And I'm still getting emails from parents concerned as to why we are limiting visitor access for athletic games. Why aren't we getting back to normal? Why are we still trying to control the situation? So we've got a mixture of people that don't want to see these processes in place, but we have them. I mean, it's not really up to us. It's what's best for us in the community. But we're doing the best we can, and all the protocols are in place that we feel are best to be in place. Anytime there's a positive case, we have to fog the classroom, we fog the clinic. We're wiping down our buses, we're wiping down our tables, we're wiping down our desks in between classroom movement. We are doing everything we possibly can to try to mitigate safely and stay in school.
In the use of virtual, how is that used at all, or you still use Google Classrooms when needed, or how would you characterize that?
As of today, we are not live streaming. We're not doing any kind of virtual presentation because we're not supposed to. We are just simply putting work that's missed on the Google Classroom, and we've been very flexible about due dates and turn-in times. We're trying to be very flexible with these families that have students out sick. We are offering tutoring opportunities at all levels. We're doing the best we can to make sure that our students are getting exactly what they need when they need it, even though they're not at school. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
Thank you.
As things get worse, the principals and I will sit down again. We might have to resort to live streaming of the classroom activities. That helps so that they can see what's going on in the classroom. Unless the governor gives us an order where we can have a hybrid model, we will not be able to do so.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Collins.
You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you. And now we have the city manager report.
That just sounds like something straight out of like Saturday Night Live or something. With Assistant City Manager Connie Barron. But thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all had a really nice holiday. It's good to be back here giving you some updates on some of the projects we've been working on. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with the portables, give you an update on that, which is not good news, but also give you an update on, give you some information on a new plan for the school buses, give you some IT updates. Dr. Britton already mentioned one of them with the lab and the installation of the computer equipment in there that IT did. So what I want to do first is I just want to give you quickly too, on Chapter 26, my intent is to have proposed updates to Chapter 26 done by next month, and then we'll figure out how we're going to present them to the board as well as to the City Council. So first of all, I want to Mark, are you going to give the update, or is it Damon on the portables? I will on the portables. Okay, all right. Mark Ridenhour is here to give you an update on where we are with the portables.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Ridenhour. Unfortunately, we got some bad news from Grady Minor, the engineering firm working on the portable project. The 8 manufacturers that they've reached out to, the quickest they can guarantee shipping is 8 months. So even if we was able to issue a PO probably back in November, we still wouldn't have been able to make the summer deadline. So we're going to continue to push ahead and select the vendor, the manufacturer, get a PO issued to get the building ordered, and go through the permitting process. We're going to continue to do that as quick as we can. If we have to, we may have to store the portables, the modular buildings for 2-3 months, but we'll make sure that they're here and available so that as soon as school's out next year, we'll be able to start working immediately on getting the old ones out, getting the new ones in. That's about it. Any questions?
Good news.
Assuming the prices went up on the portables?
Yes, they've already went up about 40% since the first quote we received about a year ago. Right now the prices range between 1.2 and 1.9 million, depending on the vendor, how quick, whether or not. First of all, we're working through the process to determine if we can do an RFP. We're in communications with the manufacturers to find out if they have valid contracts that we may be able to piggyback. But there's with 8 different vendors that are all basically within Florida, southern Georgia. We're going to have a difficult time finding the suitable vendor that's going to be most beneficial, whether that be price, the size of the buildings, delivery dates. There's a lot of intricate details we'll have to work out to figure out who we're going to go with. And hopefully we'll be able to work under an existing contract. So.
This may be a question for Mrs. Collins. So how many students are in the portables right now?
4 portables, 4 classrooms.
Okay.
22 per. Pardon?
22. Okay, and I haven't been in the portables in a very long time. Like, what is like the current condition of those portables?
Recently, we sealed the roof, I believe on 2 of them, to prevent water leakage from the top. They're old. They're old and they need to be replaced. They're manageable. Maybe Mr. Brown can give you a better update of what, because he's out there every day. Mr. Brown?
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I guess my concern or my question is like, okay, is this impacting, right, like the students' health, their learning, their experience, their overall experience? Are they getting a different experience than the kids in the building and all that? So.
Kevin Brown, Principal, Oasis Elementary North. Obviously, this is something that's been going on for quite some time, but they need to be replaced. We had a meeting with the city, and we kind of went over and completely understand with everything going on, why it's not coming through. But sooner the better. I feel for the teachers that teach in there and the students that are in there, just because it's different. They are old. The teachers do a great job making it a classroom. The kids do a great job in that environment as well. But it's at some point we need to replace them. I would hope sooner than later.
We have had some creative thinking, brainstorming sessions as to if we had a portable that really couldn't maintain the occupancy of the students, where could we move them inside? We haven't come to that yet. When you go in and look at the portables, I mean, they look like a classroom. They look cute. They're decorated. But yes, we've had those conversations about combining classrooms, 2 teachers in half of a classroom, or taking up, part of the makerspace might have to happen. But we'll be prepared for that if that does happen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And just financially, now that it's gone up 40%, which wasn't the case before, and we made a decision based on the prior pricing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I was talking to one school board member from Lee County School District, and they were mentioning, portables were always meant to be temporary buildings, right? That when a permanent structure could be put in place. That was the real goal, and the portable was strictly a temporary measure, right? So financially, is there any estimate of what it would cost to just actually have, you know, a building extension there versus portables?
We have not done an analysis on that yet, but I would like to also add that when the time comes to order these buildings and actually issue a purchase order, there's a very good likelihood the prices could come back down. Some of the materials shortages are based on a lot of steel products. Once the supply is replenished, it's possible the prices will stabilize a little bit. So, and unfortunately, at this point, manufacturers will only guarantee a price for 30 days. So there's just so much volatility in the materials market right now. They won't guarantee more than 30 days. So.
To add to that, we did initially back in 2017, we did get quotes on a brick and mortar building. It was significantly more expensive. We're talking $3 million. We wanted to make sure that we added extra classrooms so we could offset some of that expense with, you know, enrollment. It wasn't something that we weren't able to do it at the time. Now come the future, if the sales tax option comes to fruition, that might be the answer to that question. To be able to build a brick and mortar, but we just didn't have we didn't have the funding even back then in 2017.
The defense?
One of the
Just another question, I guess, based on the feedback on the conditions of the portable, it'd be good to see the plan to be creative and get out of the portables. I know the density is an issue right now with the virus, but it'd be nice to see some ideas without doing brick and mortar, without ordering portables. I've been in portables. They're not the same as a normal classroom. It'd be interesting to see some ideas.
I'm sorry, Mark. We were talking about creative temporary ideas. We are existing out of closets, and you know, those workspaces are all taken. Now, I mean, we could get rid of our media center. That would be a space. We could get rid of our maker space. That would be another space. But we were thinking temporary because we just don't have the physical space in that building to house, you know, 85 more students.
One of the downsides of the brick and mortar is there's absolutely no way that could be done in a school summer off season. We would have to find a different location, or you would potentially have to go without the modular classrooms for an entire school year during that construction process.
Great. Thank you. Had a question?
And this is kind of related, but not related, but has there been any exploration of like outdoor classrooms that, I mean, obviously the students wouldn't be there all day, but it would be like a location where students would be able to kind of get out of the portables maybe for, you know, for a few hours, or have like full-blown lessons that, you know, are done outside, but with, you know, shelter and all that. Oh, okay.
I see that happening a lot out there.
Sorry, I tripped on the way up here on Ms. Jensen. So actually, we just had a teacher, two teachers, Ashley, Tony, and Matt Lobbin, make like an outdoor area. Right now we have 3 picnic tables out there and 2 sitting benches. So we could house a whole class all the way up to from kindergarten through 5th grade. So just with COVID and just kids being outside to change up an environment, we did recently do that. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, and like I know it's not like a permanent. You can't have a class out there all the time.
Correct.
But
yeah,
know,
it's just
if there's an outdoor location, and I know the students would appreciate being outside as well. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Thank you very much. And one thing I was just confirming with Mary Ann on is the, obviously what they're in out there right now are portables. And as you said, Dr. Minaya, they are just intended to be temporary. And of course, what's being ordered are modulars, which have a much longer life expectancy. So once they're in, they'll be able to accommodate the students for up to 30 years, so that would be good. The next thing that we wanted to give you an update on and let you know about what our plans are, they've kind of changed a little bit with regard to school buses. And Mark Mason is going to, he's talked to Superintendent Collins about this, and he's going to let you know about what the plan is for the school buses.
Good evening. Yep. Mark Mason, I'm Finance Director for the City of Cape Coral. I think we've talked a couple of times. Before I get into the whole bus thing, probably a little quick discussion about the charter school audit and other things. I have to tell you, it's been a joy working with Dr. Collins, get all this stuff taken care of and getting squared away. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I do believe that once we get all of these things in place and we're utilizing them, that we'll see results, from doing things, I would say more efficiently. Let's put it that way. So let's see if I can get this little gizmo working. I've never figured out how to work it yet. Okay, how do I get this gizmo working? Yeah, it's right here. Oh, it's down here?
IT is coming to your rescue.
As well they should. Okay, so apparently it was ready to go. Perfect.
It's there, yep.
Beautiful, Mark.
Hey, there you go. All right, so anyways. Okay. All right, so a couple of things about buses. All right, so we started the budget process, I think, back in December, correct, Dr. Collins? December. And as we were sitting there, we were talking about replacement of buses. And I recall Dr. Collins speaking to Danielle and said, so how many buses do we have to replace in this fiscal year upcoming? And she goes, well, I think we're replacing 2, but Fleet is certainly recommending that we replace a lot more. I said, okay. So I said, well, how many buses do we have? Well, we have about 25. And I said, so how old's the oldest one? I think they're 2011s or thereabouts. I said, okay. So I said, I'll tell you what, let me sit down with Fleet because in the normal course of business, when you're in this kind of size, purchasing buses are not necessarily in your best interest, okay? And there's very good reasons for that. Number one, it's a large outlay up front, and then over the period of time that you hold the bus, there's a large outlay of maintaining them, okay? So what you want to try to do is you want to try to create some stability in your expenses year over year. So this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about here tonight. And so I went back and spoke with the fleet manager, AJ, who I'm telling you is actually put this presentation together. So I'm utilizing his stuff and I'm not taking advantage of him, but he did a very good job on this. But what I want to do is I want to point out that I guess back in 2011 when we took over the bus system from the company that I think it was providing the service at the time, we went out and bought a bunch of buses right off the bat. And so that big, large purchase at the time is now coming home to roost because all things being equal, we haven't been replacing those buses. So just to kind of start, the majority of the fleet right now was purchased in 2011. And so those buses are really the bulk of your cost in maintenance today. Okay? And one of the things that I did not know until I read this, that state law requires us to maintain these buses. We have to do inspections every 30 days. And there's a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that they're running and running efficiently and they're able to, pick up the children and ensure their safety from point of pickup to point of delivery. Okay, so that didn't work. So give you an idea of where we stand. We have 12 buses right now that are 10 years or older, since we're in 2022 now. We bought some in 2016, a bunch of them. And then we bought a couple, and so we started the replacement program, I think, in 2020, and looked at replacing 2, and then 3, and then we replaced 1 in 2022. So when you're looking at the overall age of the buses, we have, and from 2011, you have 13 of them, and then you can see, basically the newer buses, we have at least 7 of them that are within 3 years, and then we have this little bunch of them right there in 2016. And I think when you go back and you look at the 16s, we bought some used buses at the time to kind of give you an idea of where we stand with that. So one of the things that we're looking at from an expectancy basis, or your life expectancy factors, is that we look at a number of different things, especially the cost of the maintenance of the vehicles and the cost of the repair of the vehicles, and how often, especially as they age, how often they have to be in the shop for repairs. And so when you're looking at the total cost of the maintenance for just the 2011 active buses from January 2020 through January of 2022, we've spent a little over almost $300,000 just on maintaining these 13 buses. That's a significant chunk of money when you're talking about the cost of one bus is about $119,000, I think, thereabouts, okay? So at the same time, since we took over and it says 2011 up there, but I should say 2018. Since we took over the maintenance, when I say we, we're talking about the city of Cape Coral, took over the maintenance of the equipment, we've spent almost $750,000 in maintenance, and since that time, with the bulk of it being in the repair portion of the buses as opposed to just the normal maintenance of the buses. And so one of the things that we've also looked at is that we expect at some point in time, that we're going to see a little bit of growth, but in the charter school system. But what we're really going to see is we're going to see the routes probably expanding as more houses are built in the northern area of the city, things like that. You're going to see expansion of the routes as opposed to, or even more routes, okay, being added to the system. And so as we were looking at this, we said, okay, so number one, you cannot continue to operate with 2011 buses forever. And so we need to replace buses at a more rapid rate than a couple a year. And so, in the normal course of business, I'd be recommending that you're replacing about 4 or 5 buses a year. And in this circumstance, we're going to be talking about replacing 7 of the 2011 now, and then 6 of them next year, okay? The primary reason for this is we need to spread these out a little bit, okay? And even 6 and 7 or 7 and 6 is not as much spread as I would like to see, but, we need to take care of the system, not assuage my, conscience, as far as how we should be doing things. So what we're talking about is leasing. We're talking about leasing these buses. We would lease them for 5 years. We would hold them for 10. All right, or to the point where we're seeing that the repair and the maintenance of the buses are starting to exceed the value of keeping them online. Okay. So in some cases, as I told you before, you have about 25 buses. You have actually you have 27 buses, my bad. And apparently you have 4 in reserve, however, they're not actually reserve. You use them when you have field trips. So reserve buses is actually when you have a vehicle that's in repair basis for an extended period of time, and a reserve can be put into active service in order to continue the system. And the reality is today you don't really have reserves. You have some that are sitting back in order to provide field trip services, but you don't have something that is going to be available to you if necessary, because you have more than one bus that's down. And so we do scramble in order to maintain your buses and keep them running, and that may be some, but our goal here is that over a period of time is to get you into a position where you're not scrambling on an annual basis. Plus, we're creating a level of predictability in your expenses on an annual basis, as opposed to trying to hit your budget on a regular basis with some, upfront punch for, the actual cost of a bus right now. And so this is one of the things that we're recommending. In the first year, we would, and when I say the first year, with your approval tonight, we're going to go to the city council and request them to approve the authorization to do the leasing for the buses. Then we're going to order the buses. The buses take about 9 months to be built. So they're not going to be here next week, but they're going to be here in time to, start to reduce the cost of your maintenance. And at the same time, by the time that happens, we'll be in the next fiscal year and we'll be starting the second leg of the lease in order to bring on the next set of buses, which will take another 9 months. So our goal is to actually stay in front of this because of the timing of building these buses, but at the same time, to create what I consider to be the predictability of expenses year over year and keep your overall costs down as far as maintenance and repair is concerned. Now, things happen with buses, but, ultimately, the newer the bus, the less the cost to maintain. That just should be, that's just logical and common sense. And so, I'm here for any questions that you have, but as I said, we're looking for your approval to move forward with this concept because the city council, because these are lease to own, the city council will need to approve the debt associated with this.
So they're leased to own. So when you mentioned that it would be, we would lease them for 5 years and hold them for 10.
Correct.
The last 5 years, we would own them.
Yes. Well, you'll actually own them from the day of the lease, but you're just paying for them over a 5-year period as opposed to an upfront payment to hone it for that 10 years.
Mark, where does the money come from?
Well, the money right now, because of the, normally when you go to manufacture, they don't necessarily require the money up front. So we would put the cost of these into the next year's budget. And if necessary, if we have to pay or come up with a payment for the current year or half down or whatever we could do, especially if we have trade-in value or anything like that goes along with these buses, we'll come back to you and have a budget amendment. You have the resources necessary to be able to do this.
I would make a motion to go ahead and approve the 5-year lease.
In this case, all you're really just approving the authority for us to move forward with the leasing concept with the city council.
Okay, so that would be my motion to go with the leasing concept to go towards the city council.
Thank you.
Any second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I'd like to see a little more information. Was that in the packet for tonight? The lease cost, because you're spending $11,000 per bus a year, not assuming any depreciation, but it'd be nice to see a little more information on what the impact is going to be overall in the budget. It sounds like a great idea. I would have initially said lease. It'd just be nice to see some more numbers behind this.
Sure. We'll get you whatever you want.
We have to wait for another council meeting and a whole nother month goes by, though.
Correct.
So that would be February, and then it wouldn't go to council until March.
Correct.
If I may, just add my 2 cents. I really do believe, after struggling, and I'm sure Danielle can attest, after struggling the last couple of years with our buses and our maintenance and the expense that we're experiencing, I can't imagine this wouldn't be beneficial for us long term. I'm sure, we can give the board a copy of this while we're trying to get through the approval from the council to lease, because I think it takes 2 meetings, right, to approve a lease?
Correct. Yeah, it's an ordinance.
Give you all the paperwork you need in the meanwhile to show you what the cost would be.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Leases $1,000 a month for a bus. Okay, 27 buses, $27,000 a month times 12. It's a lot more than current maintenance, but again, it doesn't assume the depreciation.
Okay, a couple of things. All right, so a brand new bus will cost you about $120,000 today. All right, so if we buy 2 buses, it's $240,000. If I remember correctly in here, your first month's yearly payment on 7 buses will be $161,000. And so you're paying over, for 7 buses over a 5-year period, let's see, about a little over $800,000. So there's no doubt that it's going to cost you a little bit more than a brand-new bus, but at the end of the day, you know, it's either going to cost you a couple of $100,000 to go out and buy 6 buses, or in this case, it'll cost you about, I don't know, $800,000, $900,000 to buy 7 buses today. Or you can pay it $161,000 for those same 7 buses over a 5-year period. Now, again, we're trying to create predictability within your annual budget, so you'll know year over year, you know, based upon, you know, our forecast about what your annual payment's going to be. At no time during this particular period, if you're talking about a 10-year program to replace all your buses, because we're not replacing 27 buses in the beginning, okay? There, at no time during this period will you have a payment that's higher than $400,000 in 1 year, which again is going to be a time saving or a cost savings to you during this particular period, while you have newer buses, lower cost of maintenance, lower cost of repairs.
And Neil, what kind of additional information would you like to see that maybe could be provided afterwards?
It should be pretty easy to show the case study. It sounds like it's worth it. That was my initial reaction, but it'd be good to see the numbers.
So okay, so I guess it died for lack of a second.
No, it was seconded.
Oh, it was?
We're in
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, we'll be more than happy to get you the information. I no issues with that. I mean, I wouldn't stand up here and recommend this if I didn't think it was the right thing to do. So,
All right, understood. Okay. All right, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or do we need this to be, Kathleen, should this be by person? Why don't we do it that way?
Manaya,
Aye.
Rodriguez, Mian,
Aye.
Rosso, Tate. Says. Unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. And with the request that we get, I guess, a view of how the numbers look.
sure, no problem. We'll get it to you tomorrow.
Great.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Greatly appreciate it.
Dr. Manaya, I have an HOA meeting at 7:15 that I have to attend, but I want to make sure there's nothing else we have to vote on, because then we won't have a quorum, correct? So if I do leave, the meeting can go on or not? Okay.
Is there anything else we're going to be voting on?
Yeah, then I'm-
Okay. Good.
I don't think so.
Oh, no worries.
No,
No worries.
no.
No worries.
Right. Oh, well, we just have a couple items to finish up on, and I think they'll probably only take maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most, okay? The first thing is I wanted to have Damon come up and give an update on the custodial services at the schools.
Great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Damon Grant for the record, Facilities Manager within the Property Management Group. The custodial program we hit on last meeting, your meeting, and as you know, I think Mark got up, and that was when I was introduced to you as the new Facilities Manager, and we talked a little bit about the program. Since that time, the program continues to stabilize. We continue to get good feedback. We have the folks in place. We do have a couple that we're working through that have either left, or one was, I think we have 2 out right now that we're looking to backfill. But as far as coverage and providing the necessary custodial service, and especially with COVID, we're out making sure we're doing deep cleanings as they come up, and we're staying ahead of it. And good things to come as we continue to work with this program and cover those 4 schools. I think we'll continue to stay ahead of it, and I'm here to ask or answer any questions you have.
Great. Any questions? Okay.
Thank
Get
you.
off easy.
It was nice to be at full staffing for a little bit at least. So, then the last one that I have to talk to the group is Michelle Hoffman, our IT director. As I noted earlier, Dr. Pritton had already touched on one of the big projects they completed, but I wanted Michelle just to give you an update on some of the other projects that they're working on, since IT plays such a big role in our educational process to schools.
Michelle Hoffman, IT Director. In addition to responding to tickets each day, we do have some projects that we're doing at the same time. So this is the list of projects that we completed since your last board meeting. We talked about the lab PCs. We also rolled out 35 new printers. Some of those were replacements, some of those were additions. We're rolling them out in a standard configuration fashion so that they're easier for us to maintain going forward. We had a project where we upgraded all the Chromebooks to a certain operating system level for the upcoming district testing. We implemented a solution to centrally manage the 91 Prometheum boards. These are spread throughout the 4 buildings, and obviously this is a big time saver for IT. We can push out updates and security patches easily. And then we had 2 new software packages that we configured and set up for the schools. That's it. Questions?
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right.
Thank you. I did want to acknowledge that Angie Klein is here from HR. I know she's working some with Lisa Orcott to work on some of the pay questions that the city has and some of the pay ranges they're developing out there. So I just want to acknowledge she's here. She doesn't have a presentation unless she has one that I didn't know about. Okay, all right, good. And that's really all that we have for this month. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them for you. But if not, we'll be back next month with another update.
Great. Question? Neil?
Yeah, I did have one quick question. We have 0 substitute bus drivers, so I'm just curious if the wage is where it needs to be. I know it's pretty close to a full-time bus driver, but it's hard to get people right now, you know that.
I'll let Jackie answer that since she hires the bus drivers.
We just had a conversation about this today, actually. Danielle is in charge of transportation. I'll let her share some of the news. It's hard to find them. They're just not out there. Danielle?
Yes, Danielle Jensen, Director of Procurement. Oh, what am I? Director of Transportation and Food Service. We have had a substitute bus driver position open this entire year, and we have had not one applicant. We have hired 3 dispatchers, and all of them have lasted less than 2 weeks. I think it's the nature of the business, it's the nature of the environment right now. It's very hard to get staff hired. It's a national issue, it's not just something with our charter school. I mean, I feel very blessed that our bus drivers are very dedicated, and at most we've had to cancel, I think first week we came back, we had to cancel 3 routes. Just because of different situations with sickness and stuff like that. But it is a big challenge. We try to create a good environment. Tomorrow I told Jackie, let's sit down and kind of think of another option we can try and do to try and get some coverage, and maybe it's doing I think a lot of people don't want to do the substitute routes because it's different every day. They're going out at 5:30 in the morning, it's dark, you're doing a different route, you have all these stops, so it's very challenging. So we want to look at some things and try and think outside of the box to try and get that covered, because that's just been the biggest challenge is we have all the routes covered, but if one person calls out, then we have an issue, and people call out. We've got COVID, we've got sickness, we've got all different things. So it's just something we've been working through daily. I have to commend my staff and my coordinator, Tammy, and I have been working 12-hour days pretty much since September. And we make sure between us, we get the dispatch and fleet and all that stuff covered. And our bus drivers, I ask them not to take off, and they don't unless they really have to.
So we have had conversations about salary, or about hourly rate for sub-bus drivers. It's lower than a normal, a driver, and it needs to be addressed. Yes. I think that'll help, maybe.
Right. Is that something we should discuss at our next board meeting? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things is maybe we need to, instead of making less, is maybe there needs to be a premium to someone that's going to be a substitute and maybe has to run different routes every day. But we'll look through all the options, make sure that HR is involved and we handle it correctly.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good. All right. Well, thank you. And again, thanks for our city team that's here to share those reports. Greatly appreciated. I think from a chairman's report, we're looking to schedule, we received a request to schedule the half-cent sales tax meeting with the Lee County School Board today, and then there's a second meeting on collaboration on a grant that we'll also schedule. So that's great. And then tomorrow, the mayor and I will be signing the lease, the official lease for the building, so that's great. And I think that's it. Staff comment? No, foundation report. Mr. Surdy.
Everybody's on a time crunch, so I'm going to try to do this in 60 seconds or less. Hopefully you guys had a good new year. Gary Cerny, president of Charter School Foundation. Just kind of run down the quick bullet point list. We're actively working on grants throughout the year. We have a meeting tomorrow morning. We have 8. Just got that word. Wasn't sure how many we had. We have 8 grants. We've opened them up for the sports and the clubs. So a lot of positive, applications for that, which is nice. So we're glad to expand into that. We are now in full rally planning mode. It's going to be interesting. We're still planning on doing it the way that we were going to, which we did last year and the year before, which is just kind of a golf outing. We're still going to skip all the big bouncies and all that. It's probably not too appropriate for the time frame or the State of the Union, if you will. And then we're going to have like a little baby putt rally the night before at the Tropical Breeze, which is going to be for the kids. So one's going to be golf, one's going to be for the kids. Planning that's April 9th, April 9th. Please come. And then the other thing is we're also Lighthouse Awards. We're about to go interview the finalists in the coming few days. We will announce the finalists on the 20th, and we're going to do it apparently via intercom. Usually we go in there and do a big dog and pony show, but again, we're trying to be very respectful and conscious of the State of the Union. Let's see, Lighthouse Award, please come to Lighthouse Awards, by the way. You're all invited, you know that. That is May 6th. Let me double check, make sure I'm not feeding you something I shouldn't. March 6th, thank you. That's why I wanted to double check it. March 6th, Yacht Club, right before they, I guess, shut it down for a year and a half, or however long it's going down. And that's it. Scholarships aren't going to open for probably for a couple more months. That's really it. Just, got some of those feel-good packages, too. I think we did 12 more last week. Some of our foundation members went out and delivered those, some of them to Melanie. So, just trying to throw as much positivity as we can into the mix, and that's really it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cerny. Let's see, is there any additional staff comments today? Nope, that's it. No new business? Okay, so final board comment and discussion. Would you like to start?
Sure. I know they're not here anymore, but it was so great to see the students, and I love that they had like this authentic problem, right? Not problem, but an authentic issue that they addressed with their need for the song and to have it at the sporting event. So, I just wanted to reiterate how wonderful that was, and that I hope we see more and more, and that they felt. It's important to know that they felt that. That they felt like they could do that, right? Like they could take that risk and, to create a whole song, it's awesome that they are, they have that confidence. And I'm excited to attend the TAC meeting on the first, in February, right? So hopefully after that meeting, I'll be able to report, what I hear from the teachers and all that. I'm very excited about that. And I think that's it. Looking forward to, the rest of the school year.
Great, thank you. Yep.
No, I just want to say thank you again for the ongoing support from the city and the quality of the services they're providing to schools. And it just continues to be a win-win for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Oakland?
Well, I am very upset I missed the song, for sure. I apologize, I was stuck in all that Santa Barbara traffic. I did not know that they were closing the roads, and my husband didn't tell me that they were closing the roads. Because he couldn't remember which meeting I was going at today, so I'll let him off. But I guess we chug along, so thank you.
Okay, great, great. And in your package, you do have the new board calendar. February is our next meeting, and then they've got it all the way through June. I think it was very positive to hear about the increase in enrollment for the high school. I know in the past years, that was a concern of ours, was there enough enrollment? And there was even a discussion, is it worthwhile to continue with the high school? Because we had a lot of great enrollment in elementary school, but the high school was a concern. And now to see the high school just do so well, that's great. And again, thank you to the city, to the staff, and my goodness, the COVID, it looks, and I think all of us feel this, that even though it's yet another curveball, our ability to adapt and be a little bit more creative and have, some faith that we're going to get through this one. And sincerely thanks to all of the teachers and staff and administration for making this one still taking it seriously, but making it in a way where we don't feel, how can I put it, where it's not adding even more anguish to our staff and to our students. So thank you so much for all the great work. Anything else you'd like to say, Mrs. Collins? Okay. Motion to adjourn? Adjourned.